We grow up being taught that family is everything, that no matter what happens, family will always be there to lift us. The idea is ingrained in us from a young age. Blood is thicker than water. They're supposed to protect us and love us unconditionally. But what happens when the very people you trust the most are the ones who bring you the most pain? What happens when the ones you should turn to for comfort become the source of your deepest wounds? Imagine this. You're sitting at a family gathering, surrounded by people who are supposed to love you. The room should feel warm, filled with laughter and light, but something feels off. A certain family member, maybe a sibling, a parent, or even a cousin, always seems to drain you. You don't know why, but their words cut deeper than they should. Their presence feels heavy, almost suffocating. You try to ignore it, to push through the discomfort, but no matter how much you try, you just know something is wrong. There's an unease in your chest that won't go away, and deep down, you can feel it. Something is very off. This isn't about a few minor misunderstandings or occasional conflicts that every family faces. This is about something darker, more insidious. True toxicity doesn't always announce itself with screams or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes it wears a smile, speaks softly, and hides its true face behind kind words that conceal a deeper agenda. If you don't recognize this early on, it's easy to internalize the hurt and blame yourself. You might think you're the one at fault, but let me tell you this: you're not the problem. You're just caught in a toxic cycle, enduring things you shouldn't have to because they come from family. Today, we're going to talk about 7 warning signs that a family member isn't just difficult, they're evil. This isn't about labeling everyone who's hard to deal with as evil, but about recognizing when someone's behavior crosses the line into something calculated, manipulative, and downright dangerous. Because let's be honest, some people aren't just toxic, they are far worse. They will destroy your confidence, peace, and even your future if you don't see them for who they are. Now, I'm not telling you to cut off your family or turn your back on them. What I'm asking you to do is become aware. Awareness is your first line of defense. Once you see the truth for what it is, you can take steps to protect your emotional health. Let's walk through these warning signs together. If you know what to look for, you'll have the power to defend yourself. 1. They enjoy your pain. Realizing that a family member might take pleasure in your pain is deeply unsettling. When someone who is supposed to support you instead revels in your suffering, it turns your world upside down. It's a harsh truth that, once recognized, cannot be ignored. Many experience this in toxic family dynamics where cruelty is disguised as care. At first, it's hard to see. Family is supposed to protect you, so you rationalize their behavior, thinking they're just tough or unaware of the harm they cause. But over time, patterns emerge, making it clear their actions are intentional. They seem to derive satisfaction from your discomfort, sadness, or struggles. Consider a time you faced hardship, a breakup, failure, or job loss. Instead of empathy, they respond with indifference or amusement. Maybe they mock your pain, saying, "I told you so," or make cutting remarks that twist the knife. Their goal isn't to support you, but to watch you react, feeding their sense of control. They may also push your buttons, despite knowing it hurts you. You've expressed your boundaries, yet they repeatedly cross them. They claim it's tough love, but deep down, you sense the truth. Your pain is their entertainment. Seeing you upset, vulnerable, or defeated gives them a rush, far outweighing any concern for your well-being. This behavior can also be passive. When you need them most, they withhold support, distance themselves, or act as though your struggles are insignificant. If you reach out, they dismiss your pain, turning the conversation back to themselves. Their indifference is an act of power, a way to control you without lifting a finger. What makes this even more harmful is that it comes from someone meant to love and protect you. The betrayal cuts deeper because family should offer comfort, not treat your suffering as a game. When they take pleasure in your pain, it's a dagger to the heart, forcing you to realize they don't see you as someone deserving of compassion. This behavior is not your fault. No one deserves to have their pain dismissed or used for someone else's satisfaction. The sooner you recognize this toxicity, the sooner you can set boundaries and protect your emotional well-being. If someone enjoys your pain, acknowledge the harm they cause. Don't let their cruelty define your self-worth. You deserve to be surrounded by people who genuinely care about your happiness. Stop feeding into their toxic behavior and start protecting yourself, because your pain is not theirs to enjoy. 2. They compete with you, not support you. Another hurtful family dynamic is feeling like a competitor rather than a loved one. Instead of cheering you on, they seem fixated on outshining you. Every achievement becomes a challenge, a race, or a chance for them to prove they're better. What makes it worse is that this competition is often masked as friendly rivalry or just joking around, but beneath it lies deep insecurity or jealousy. This type of family member constantly one-ups you, even over trivial matters. You share a success, a promotion, a relationship, or something that brings you joy, but rather than celebrating, they immediately shift the focus to their achievements. They don't just acknowledge your success, they make sure you know they've done something better. Imagine working hard for a promotion, finally achieving it, and excitedly sharing the news. Instead of congratulating you, they say, "Oh, that's great, but I've been managing a team for years," or "I got a raise last year and my salary is much higher." It's no longer about your success. It's about making you feel like theirs is superior. This competition can be more subtle too. They make comments like, "Well, it's easier for you because you don't have kids," or "Anyone could have done that." These remarks undermine your achievements, implying they aren't truly earned. Rather than encouragement, they make you feel like you're constantly falling short. In more toxic cases, they may even sabotage your progress, talking down your ideas, spreading negativity, or discouraging you from pursuing opportunities. Their need to win means they can't stand to see you succeed unless it benefits them or puts them ahead. Over time, this can erode your confidence, making you doubt your abilities and worth. The hardest part? This behavior comes from someone meant to love and support you unconditionally. Instead of feeling like you have a team behind you, you feel isolated, constantly trying to prove yourself, even within your own family. It's exhausting, not just competing against the world, but against your flesh and blood. But here's the truth. You don't have to play their game. Their need to outshine you is about their insecurities, not their worth. Their behavior reflects them, not you. You are worthy of celebrating your achievements without having to compete for validation. Stepping away from this toxic dynamic might be the best thing for your mental health. You don't need to measure yourself against someone who should be supporting you. Surround yourself with people who genuinely want to see you win. True family support isn't about who's better. It's about standing together, proud of each other's accomplishments, no matter how big or small. 3. They constantly manipulate your emotions. Emotional manipulation is especially painful when it comes from family. Family should be a safe space for support and vulnerability, but when someone closely twists your emotions against you, it feels like a deep betrayal. Manipulation isn't always loud or obvious. Often it's subtle and insidious, making it hard to recognize. Have you ever felt like you're walking on eggshells, unsure when the next emotional bomb will drop? Or left feeling guilty, confused, or questioning yourself after every interaction? That's emotional manipulation. twisting your feelings to control you, avoid accountability, or make you doubt yourself. One common tactic is guilt tripping. Imagine reaching out to a family member for support after a tough day, only for them to turn the conversation back on themselves. Instead of comfort, they remind you of everything they've done for you, making you feel like a burden. Rather than being able to express your emotions, you're left guilty for even needing support. This isn't care, it's control. Another form is gaslighting. A family member says something hurtful, and when you confront them, they deny it happened. "You're overreacting," they insist, or "that's not what I meant." Over time, you start doubting your memories and emotions. Reality becomes a puzzle, constantly shifting to make you feel like you're always in the wrong. Then there's the emotional roller coaster. One moment, they're warm and supportive. The next, they're cold and distant. This inconsistency keeps you anxious, unsure of which version of them you'll get. It leaves you constantly second-guessing your interactions, making it difficult to trust whether they truly care or are simply toying with your emotions. A manipulative family member may also weaponize your vulnerabilities. If you've shared personal struggles, they'll bring you up at the worst times, using them to shame you, make you feel guilty, or keep you on the defensive. This tactic ensures you're too busy protecting yourself to express your real feelings. A manipulative person wants to shape how you feel and respond to them. They gradually entangle you in their emotional games, making it feel like normal family dynamics until the toll on your mental health becomes undeniable. Over time, you begin to doubt your worth, constantly seeking their validation. You deserve relationships where your emotions are validated and respected. A family member who manipulates your feelings does not have your best interests at heart. Love nurtures emotions, not twists them. If you're always drained, guilty, or second-guessing yourself, it's time to reassess that relationship. You are entitled to protect your emotional well-being, and recognizing manipulation is the first step toward emotional freedom. You deserve to be surrounded by those who respect and support your feelings, not those who use them to control you. They never take responsibility for their actions. When a person never admits they're wrong, it creates a toxic cycle of blame-shifting, defensiveness, and denial, leaving issues unresolved and you emotionally drained. At first, you may excuse their behavior, thinking stress or past struggles explain it. You try to be patient, hoping they'll recognize their impact. But over time, a pattern emerges. They always find a way to avoid accountability. They deflect, deny, or blame others, anything to avoid admitting fault. It's like they have a built-in defense mechanism against responsibility. Maybe they've hurt you with a cruel remark. When you bring it up, hoping for an apology, they respond with, "You're too sensitive," or "I didn't mean it like that." Suddenly, it's no longer about their actions, but about your reaction. They twist the situation to make you feel at fault for being hurt. Refusal to take responsibility is damaging. It makes you question your feelings, wondering if you're overreacting. No matter how many times you bring up their behavior, they never acknowledge it. Instead of apologizing, they blame circumstances, others, or even you. It forces you onto the defensive, fighting for validation you should never have to beg for. Think about past disagreements with this family member. Have they ever admitted their role in the conflict? Likely not. They either shift blame or act as if the issue never happened. Sometimes they even make you feel like you imagined the whole thing, planting seeds of doubt in your mind. This creates an emotional imbalance where your feelings seem invisible and unimportant. Over time, this behavior becomes so routine that you stop expecting accountability. You may even stop expressing how their actions hurt you because you know it'll lead nowhere. Avoiding confrontation feels easier than pushing for a resolution that will never come. But this only builds resentment, drains you emotionally, and eventually leads you to withdraw from the relationship, not out of lack of love, but out of exhaustion. A family member who refuses to take responsibility creates instability, avoids growth, and diminishes your feelings. If they never change, the emotional toll will only grow. You deserve relationships where your emotions are heard and respected. Setting boundaries and standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's self-respect. If someone refuses to own their mistakes, they may not be showing you the care you deserve. 5. They only reach out when they want something. Something is unsettling about realizing a family member only reaches out when they need something. It makes you feel like the relationship isn't built on love or care, but on what you can provide. At first, it might not be obvious, but over time, the pattern becomes clear. You're sitting at home, thinking about them. Maybe you haven't heard from them in weeks, but then your phone rings. For a moment you feel excited, thinking, maybe they're checking on me. But when you pick up, the conversation quickly shifts to something they need: money, a favor, or assistance. It's a painful experience many of us have endured, especially when it's a close family member. Their calls always seem to coincide with their personal needs. They never check in just to see how you're doing, and never offer support when you're struggling. It's like they only value you when they need something. This behavior can feel draining, leaving you questioning whether they genuinely care about you or just see you as a resource. It's easy to ignore this pattern, especially if you've always been there for family. You tell yourself, they're family, so I should help. And yes, families should support each other. But when the relationship becomes one-sided, where you're always giving and they're always taking, it leads to emotional burnout. Imagine you've had a rough week, stress, personal struggles, or a loss. You consider calling them, but hesitate because you know they'll only talk about their needs. And if you do reach out, you're met with silence. Yet weeks later, they call asking for a favor without acknowledging your struggles. No, how have you been? No, is everything okay? They don't seem to notice or care unless they need something. This dynamic can feel isolating. You start questioning whether they value you beyond what you provide. If you ever find yourself asking, why don't they reach out when I'm struggling? Or, why am I always giving, but they never give in return? You're not alone. It's frustrating when efforts aren't reciprocated. This behavior can also affect your self-worth. When someone only reaches out for favors, it makes you feel like you don't matter unless you're providing something. It's exhausting and makes you question your role in the relationship. Is this love or just convenience? But you don't have to tolerate this. Family should be there in both highs and lows. Relationships should be reciprocal and built on care and respect. If you're always giving and they're always taking, it's time to reassess. Setting boundaries is essential. You have the right to say no and protect your emotional energy. It might be difficult at first, but your well-being matters. It's okay to step back from relationships that drain you. Healthy relationships balance giving and receiving. If a family member only talks to you when they need something, it may be time for a difficult conversation or some distance to protect your peace. You deserve to feel valued for who you are, not just what you give. Recognizing the imbalance is the first step toward restoring your emotional well-being. They violate your boundaries. One of the hardest things to experience in any relationship, especially with family, is the constant violation of your boundaries. Boundaries are essential for emotional and mental well-being. They define what you're comfortable with, what you tolerate, and what you need to feel safe and respected. When a family member disregards them, it creates a toxic environment that leaves you feeling helpless, frustrated, and emotionally drained. Imagine you've communicated your needs, perhaps asking for personal space, setting limits on conversations, or establishing expectations for how you want to be treated. You do this to protect your emotional health, believing your family will respect your needs. But time and again, they ignore or trample over those boundaries. They might pressure you to share uncomfortable details, demand more of your time than you can give, or push you into situations that make you feel uneasy or disrespected. For example, you might have told them you need quiet time to unwind, yet they persist in calling or texting at all hours. Or maybe you've made it clear that certain topics are off limits, yet they keep bringing them up, dismissing your feelings as unimportant. They may even act as if they're helping you by getting you to open up, making you feel guilty for having boundaries. Sometimes boundary violations are subtle but still harmful. It could be making decisions for you without consulting you, taking your belongings without asking or offering unsolicited advice. These actions pile up, leaving you feeling disrespected and unseen. Each violation chips away at your autonomy, making you feel like you have no control over your life. What makes this behavior so exhausting is its repetition, despite your clear efforts to set boundaries. You might begin to feel unreasonable for having limits or that your needs are too much to ask. In reality, your boundaries are valid and necessary. When someone continuously crosses them, it's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of their unwillingness to respect you. The emotional toll is immense. Over time, you may feel drained, anxious, or resentful. Repeated violations erode trust, making you question the authenticity of the relationship. You start to wonder if they truly care about you or only about what they can get from you. No one, not even family, has the right to violate your boundaries. Setting boundaries is a healthy act of self-care. If someone constantly disrespects them, it's not a reflection of your worth, but of their disregard for your well-being. Stand firm. Don't let their disregard become the norm. Your boundaries protect you, and you deserve relationships that respect them. Your emotional health should always come first. 7. They try to isolate you from others. One of the most dangerous tactics an evil family member uses is subtle isolation, cutting you off from those offering support, clarity, and an escape from their control. At first, it might look like a concern. They tell you a certain friend is a bad influence or a relative is jealous of you. They plant seeds of doubt, making you question the people around you. They don't have your best interests at heart. They talk about you behind your back. Before you know it, you start pulling away. Not because you want to, but because they've convinced you to. Other times, the isolation is more direct. They create drama between you and others. Maybe they twist your words, cause misunderstandings, or lie about what someone said or did, making you feel betrayed. Eventually, you realize you have no one left to turn to accept them, the person who orchestrated it all. They also use guilt as a weapon. If you try to spend time with others, they make you feel like you're abandoning them. I guess I'm just not important to you anymore. I do everything for you, but when I need you, you're never there. This emotional manipulation keeps you trapped, prioritizing their needs over your own, afraid they'll make you feel bad if you don't. Then there's the silent sabotage, the small ways they make it harder for you to connect with others. Maybe they forget to pass along messages from friends, create conflicts at the worst times, or insist on being present, controlling who you interact with and what you say. Why do they do this? Because as long as you have strong relationships, they can't fully control you. When you have outside perspectives reminding you of your worth, their power weakens. They know that if you ever realize how toxic they are, you might leave. The truth is, anyone who truly loves you will encourage your connections, not destroy them. Isolation isn't love, it's control. And if someone in your life is trying to cut you off from the world, it's time to question why. Now, I want to hear from you. Is there someone in your family showing any of the signs I've mentioned? Or maybe you're still stuck with an evil family member fighting to break free from their influence. How are you dealing with it? I'd love for you to drop your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more help and support. Let's have an open, honest conversation, because your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Until next time, protect your peace, guard your heart, and remember, you are never truly alone. You've got this.